Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our sixth webinar in the series of GenAI for software developers. By the way, feel free to write on chat where you are joining us from. My name is Adi Stein. I'm the Azure Digital and App Innovation GTM in Southeast Europe. Together with me, we have Moria Dro, the EMEA Regional Director PM at Microsoft. And we have our special guest, Jaime de Mora, which is the EMEA Startup and Digital Native CTO here at Microsoft. Before we will start, we would like to share with you a few logistical notes. Today's session will last 1 hour and 15 minutes. During the entire event, you can type your questions in the Q&A chat, like you are doing right now, where you're sharing where you are coming from. Our moderators and speakers will do their best to answer most of the questions that we have, and we have an amazing speakers with us, an expert with us that Jaime will share soon. If you don't want your name to be visible in the public chat, you have the option to type your questions anonymously. Today's event will be recorded, and you will receive the recording along with the presentation deck and more resources of interest in the follow-up emails, which you will receive in the next days. At the end of the session, our moderators will post a survey link in the Q&A chat. We kindly ask you to spend a moment to fill in the survey and share with you your feedback regarding today's session. And it's important to us because we want to improve and we want to give you the best content out there to support you when you are creating applications. As you may all know, the ones that already been with us for several sessions. So as well in today's session, we're going to run the great contest and you can win an online voucher offered by GitHub. How the contest is going to work? At the end of the session, we will post a question related to the topic that presented during the webinar. And the first person who will answer correctly will be declared as the winner. Our team will contact you through a private message to validate you and offer you the voucher and instruction on how to use it. In case the initial winner cannot be contacted or doesn't meet the criteria, we will contact the next person on our records. We wish you a good luck in this competition and may the best and fastest win. And now, the moment you are all waiting for, Jaime, over to you.
Hello, thank you, Adi. Everyone can hear me well?
Yes, okay. Yes, we can.
Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this workshop. Let me just share my screen so we can get started right away. Okay, hopefully you see my screen. Okay. So welcome to the this building a multitasking assistant with Azure OpenAI workshop. And before we dive into today's session, let me actually introduce our team. So I'm Jaime de Mora, and I'll be guiding you through the main content. But alongside me, I'm very proud to actually have such brilliant team members and AI specialists such as Sara Lamini and Kiko de Angel Jimeno. They are here to assist you with any questions or technical issues you might encounter. So feel free to reach out to any of us during the session. Now let's get started. So the first thing is, I want to just give you a view of what we're going to be building. But before we get into the solution itself, maybe let's take a step back just to ensure that everyone's on the same page. And let's talk a little bit just briefly about LLMs. We know that they are very powerful tools for generating knowledge and are pre-trained on vast amounts of public data. And some common use cases include question and answering, text generation, and summarization. And these applications really showcase the versatility and potential of LLMs in various domains. But we know also how hard it is to build LLM applications. And we constantly get questions from companies and partners about how can they actually overcome the challenges that you're seeing on the screen? How can we ensure that the model or the models perform well with various inputs? How can we actually debug both locally and in production? And that is something that we will see today. But then to make the entire application performant and secure, especially in production scenarios, probably they're going to need new tooling. So what kind of tools can they use and leverage for this? So we're going to cover these aspects just to ensure that your LLM applications are robust and effective. And now this is what we're going to be building today. It is the Contoso Creative application, which is a multitasking assistant that solves a real-world problem with the latest tools to address challenges that many companies out there have when actually building AI application. So our AI assistant will be writing articles to market products for an online retailer. It's a fictional one called Contoso Outdoors. This assistant will perform three main tasks: research trending outdoorsy topics online, find relevant products to include in the article, and edit and improve the article to make it ready for publication. So we want this project to be extremely hands-on, and it's going to integrate LLMs into a real-world application. So let's take a look at what the app will look like once you finish building it. And let me share a video of it in a second. Give me just 1 second. Okay, I'm going to include the sound. Okay.
This is a demo to show you how to use Contoso Creative Writer. In this example, the tool will be used by the marketing team at a fictional company called Contoso Outdoors. This tool will be used to help them write articles for the Contoso blog. The first thing that we can do to use this application is to click the example button. This will fill out the necessary sample data that we can send to the application. In this case, this research we want the application to do. For example, we would like it to find the latest camping trends online for the winter. The second thing is products that the application should look for. So in our case, we want to include tents and sleeping bag from our store in the article. And then finally, a specific assignment that we would like the creative writer to carry out. In our case, we would like it to write a fun and engaging article that includes the research and our specific products from the store in an 800 to 1,000 word article. To get things going, we can click the Start Work button. We can also click the Debug button at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. This will show us which agent tasks are being carried out at what time. We have seen the researcher tasks being carried out, the product tasks being carried out, and now on the screen we see the writer task has started and is integrating the research and products that were suggested from the earlier agents. Once the writer has completed the article and finished its task, we will be able to see this on the screen and the editor agent will kick in. As we can see on the screen, the agent has received some feedback from the researcher, but has rejected that feedback because the sources included are sufficient. Now the article is complete and you should be able to use that in Contoso blog.
Okay. Let me just reshare my presentation. Okay. Good. So now you know exactly what you're going to be building. And as you can see, it's a very complex but very functionality-rich application. And before we actually dive into how to build it, let's dive into a brief overview of how our assistant works. So Contoso Creative is an agentic application, meaning that it can perceive its environment, make decisions, and take actions to achieve goals. We can illustrate this actually with an idea of a human example, where you can just imagine a girl standing in the sun, and she perceives that it is raining, and then chooses to take the action of opening an umbrella to achieve the goal of staying dry. Agents behave in a very similar manner. So this means that the applications use LLMs to actually make decisions about which part of a program or process, or really deciding which part of that program should run next, based on the context, based on the data, but also on the responses they receive. But also this means that applications can receive a range of inputs and produce relevant results. And what this at the end does, it's really make applications more flexible and way more general. But also agentic applications can also be described as having LLM-based controlled flow. This is, for example, when an LLM can interact with user input, like an instruction from a user to find references to other papers in a user-provided paper. And then the LLM makes these decisions based on the input about which function to call. And this is something we will see in a second in the hands-on session. But then it's going to execute the function, it's going to return the results to the next relevant function, and it's going to continue until it can really return the completed result to the user. Now let's take a look at the architecture itself. So Contoso Creative leverages several Azure services. And actually, this is a high-level architecture. It does have more components. But first, it all starts with the user input. Then we have Azure Managed Identity to ensure secure access to Azure resources. Then Azure Monitor actually monitors the performance and health of the application. Azure Application Container or Azure Container Apps host our processing services. And then we use Azure AI Foundry to get the environment for developing and managing the different AI models. As you can see, we're using different OpenAI models. You will use mostly GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. And the assistant actually comprises of 4 main agents, although you just see 3 on the screen. We have an orchestrator, which we'll show you later, but then we have the research agent, the writer agent, and the editor agent. And these agents collaborate to produce high-quality articles that make relevant products from Contoso outdoors. Session goals. And hopefully by the end of this session, you will be able to, 1, implement a real-world LLM lifecycle. 2nd, understand agents and prompt engineering with Prompty. And I'll explain what Prompty is in a second. Then utilize tracing for debugging and observability. And then we're going to actually build the application that you saw already in the video, but you're going to do that fully automated through GitHub Actions. And these goals are really designed to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of both building, but managing as well a multi-agent application. So now I please ask you all to navigate to the Contoso writing GitHub repository and go to the workshop/readme.md. That's going to be the first page where we will start. One thing I will encourage you is to actually please raise any questions you have. We have a team of experts that are here to actually help you if you get stuck. And I'll come back actually by the end of the workshop and share more resources. While I actually run the environment itself, I'm going to give it back to Ari that is going to talk to you about the reactor. And I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Perfect. So let me see. Alex, please, you can feel free to share my screen. Yes, perfect. I hope you can see it. So just to set the scene for everyone. So this session that we are seeing here today is actually a workshop that is being delivered in the AI Tour. And if you don't know what is AI Tour, please do check. I will share that on the Q&A section, because AI Tour is a physical event that we as Microsoft running across hundreds of countries around the world. And we wanted to give you the opportunity to see this amazing content and workshop and an end-to-end development of AI agents. So the presentation and the slide that Jaime just shared, it's an opportunity for you to take the examples and the code and the repo and actually try it later on. So you can try to do that with us, but my recommendation will be to look into the great session that Jaime will be delivering and try it afterwards. So it will give you time to also use the chat and ask the experts that we have online the questions. And before we will go ahead and see the actual end-to-end execution and the coding, I would like to give the stage to Moriah Dror from the Reactor team, so you will know how to continue to learn, to skill, and see the amazing variety of content and technical sandboxes that we have for you to continue to learn. So Moriah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Adi. Hi, everyone. I will take a minute from your time before we continue with the technical sessions to tell you a bit about the Reactor. So the Reactor program are basically regional communities that Microsoft owns in person in 10 different locations worldwide. The Reactor program offers free opportunities for you to learn through events, training, certifications, hackathons, in person and online. If you scan the QR code now on the screen, you'll be able to visit our website and find out more about the upcoming events that we offer either in your location, if you are based where we have a physical reactor, and you can also attend one of the online events that we offer. One of the platforms that we are using in Microsoft Reactor, as well as today's session, we could also refer to that, is Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn offers free training. We have about 4,000 plus learning path modules, certifications, on-demand content, really a lot of technical options, resources for you to learn. The beauty of it that you can do it really from any time that you want from home. You can scan this QR code and you will reach the AI Learning Hub, it's okay, we can go to the AI Learning Hub. It's part of the Microsoft Learn. Here you can actually find all the resources that are relevant to around AI, and you can actually get it tailored for your level. So if it's interesting for you, you can scan this QR code, register for our monthly newsletter. You will get a list of all the upcoming events in your region or around your time zone, and get the monthly newsletter. One more thing I wanted to share with you is our Founders Hub program. So Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub program for entrepreneurs. If you want to read more about that, you can scan the QR code and check how you can get from $1,000 to $150,000 of Azure credits from really the first stage, from the ideate stage until the scale stage. You can this program is tailored for startups at all levels. So if this is something that's relevant for you or you're passionate about, do check out the Founders Hub website. And without further ado, I'm going to bring it back to Jaime to continue today's session. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get right into the code, the application. And actually, I was running it in the background, and it just took me a couple more minutes than it normally does, just to provision all the resources. So let's just start where you all should be. You should all be again on the Contoso Creative Writer repo. And the first thing I want you to do is not go and fork the repo. That is something that we will do later on in a couple minutes. First, I just want you to run directly code spaces here. Okay, you can just create code space on main, and basically that will generate your own code space with a full repository, all the libraries and all the dependencies that you need to be able to fully run this both session, but also the Contoso Creative application. First things first, here you can see all the different folders. You can see, for example, I'm just going to show you quickly on the API, you have agents and you have all the different agents here, editor, product, researcher, writer, and then we have the orchestrator.python code as well. But we'll get there. Let's go first to the docs, and this is where I want everyone to be in to start with. And you should go to the lab.setup Python notebook. We're going to be mostly running Python notebooks. We're going to be working both with different notebooks that will just be running, and then as well the terminal. So the first thing, and I've run this just to make it smoother for everyone, so we don't spend too much time on setting the entire environment up. But first thing that you need to do is, first of all, I would actually tell you to run the kernel itself. So here I would just ask you to run Python 3.11, okay, as the environment, and just simply click the play button next to each cell. If you're new to Jupyter Notebooks, this is how we execute code interactively. It's super handy for workshops like this. So now let's first load the necessary credentials to log in to both GitHub and Azure. I have here all my credentials. As you can see, I would just run here, clicking X, play. I've run it just some minutes ago. And second, what we're going to do is to also log into GitHub and the GitHub CLI. So once you do this, you're going to be actually prompted. Once you run this code, you're going to be prompted with a one-time code. So just be sure to use this one-time code to actually be able to authenticate you into your GitHub account. So with GitHub set up, here you get, by the way, here, as mentioned before, you're actually forking the repo here. The main reason is that we just want everyone to be on the main repository of the Contoso Creative repo, and it just sets up the entire code space much faster than if you fork it and then create the code space. That is the main rationale behind that. Now that we have already GitHub set up, it's time to log into Azure. So this step is going to ensure that we can access all the Azure services, and we're going to use two different tools, the Azure CLI and the Azure Developer CLI. And both of them are critical for provisioning the resources and managing the environment. So here, by the way, we don't suggest people in the future for production-ready applications to hard code your credentials. But this is just, again, for learning purposes. And then you can actually just log into your Azure Developer CLI. As you can see here as well, you'll get prompted with another code and you're correctly logged in. Next step, we need to prepare the Azure environment variables, and this is going to connect our local project to the Azure resources that it will use. So in this case, just run the cell, copy the output, and paste it on the terminal. Okay. Just select yes to create the environment, confirm the default subscription, and just one important thing for everyone to know, please choose Canada East as the location. It's important to pick this location to avoid issues later, because some of the regions might have some constraints in terms of the availability of some of the services we're going to be running. So after completing this step, and I want to go fast already into the application, but just one more minute. The environment variables will be refreshed and saved to this .env file. Okay, so I'm going to show you how it looks like once you actually run this piece of code. You should actually get here all the different environment variables, okay, from the Bing Search API. By the way, I didn't mention it, but one of our agents is going to use the Bing Search API to actually browse the web and find relevant information for our application. So we need definitely here all the credentials, which are on this .env file. Then we're going to set the correct roles with this script. And last but not least, we're actually going to run the post-provision script. And this step should finalize the setup. Okay, it's going to take around 3 minutes to complete. But that's it. Now we're ready to actually go and start the workshop itself. So I'm going to go to the workshop 1 notebook. Okay, let me just go up. And the first thing is really talking about what an agent actually is. So an agent, as mentioned before, really perceives its environment, makes decisions, and takes actions to achieve specific goals. Sometimes with human intervention, sometimes autonomously. In this case, in our example, we're building this agent that is going to create or creatively write an article and assist in generating well-researched product-specific content. And we're going to break this down by focusing on the 4 key agents that are involved in this application. Let me show you here. At the heart of the application itself, the first one is actually what we call the research agent, and it's the one that starts all the process. So it searches the web for relevant information using Bing Search and OpenAI 3.5, and its job is to gather factual data from credible sources to ensure that the article is actually well-grounded. The second one is the product agent. This one, we're not going to work on it, but it's important for you at least to know that it exists. So what it does, it finds relevant products from an Azure AI Search vector store that we have already on on the project itself. So for example, if you're writing an article about hiking, it will find hiking boots or backpacks from a product database. Then the writer agent is probably where the magic happens. It takes information on products provided by the research agent and the product agent, and then integrates them into a cohesive and engaging article. In this case, we're actually using GPT-4. And the fourth one is the editor, which is going to review the article and is going to ensure that it meets some quality standards. So let's go and start building it. But we're going to be using something that many of you might not be familiar with, which is Prompty. And it is a framework created by Microsoft. It's fully open source, and it structures and executes prompts. So just think about it as a toolkit to enhance observability and portability for working with LLMs. And a Prompty file has two different parts, the from matter and the prompt template. The from matter is like the metadata. It defines what the prompt does, its configuration and inputs. Let me just show you an example here. Okay, it's like a basic YAML file, which we basically describe what we want the agent to do. And then we have the prompt template. And the prompt template, what it does, it uses variables, allowing us to dynamically craft responses based on the context. So it defines also what's actually sent to the AI model. Okay, and let me show you here. In this case, for example, you see here, these variable instructions means that it's going to receive some specific instructions. Important to mention as well, in this case, I have in VS Code already the Prompty library extension. You can just download it directly from VS Code. It's open source. It will just take you a couple minutes, but it's pretty handy to actually manage many different agents at the same time, or LLM-based applications. So now let's start with building the first agent, which is the multilingual query generator. And the idea here first is to create queries in multiple languages for searching the web. For example, you'll see how to tweak the instructions to actually change the query language. We will see how the output changes based on very small adjustments that we will make. So first, let me open the researcher.prompty. Actually, I don't know why it's not color coded. So let me just change this. Now you can see how actually the researcher.prompty file looks like. We can see the description. This agent is designed to help a writer by formulating expert queries and providing the writer with the information they need. And you can see it uses GPT 3.5 Turbo. And the instructions are, can you generate queries to find the latest winter camping trends? Use EN/US as the market code. Okay, let me run this. Okay, I want to use Prompty. Okay. It's going to ask me to log in. And there you go. It's given me, okay, already the answer. Here are some queries to find the latest winter campaign trends in the US market. And I can see the answer here. But what if instead of English, I just want Spanish? So by the way, here we have all the different language codes. You can try your own. I'm just going to use Spanish. Not because I'm Spanish and I'm biased, just because depends who you ask, it might be the second or third most spoken language in the world. So I'm going to run it and hopefully it will just give me answers in Spanish. There you go. The same exact, probably different answers because again, these models are still non-deterministic, but it gives me, you can see how easily just by changing the code on Prompty, it totally changes the output. Let's just keep it in English. Let me see what was the English code and EN/US. Okay. And now let's go back here and actually use function calling. Okay, so you already have seen how Prompty works and how we can actually adapt or adjust the behavior of the models. And here's where things really get interesting, because think as one of the things that the agents do that LLMs don't is interact with external tools and services. This could be APIs or other sources. And that's probably one of the main limitations of LLMs. They cannot really interact and perform actions, and agents can. So prompt is going to allow us to actually define these interactions using a functions.json file. And then we're going to see how the agent dynamically decides which function to call based on the task. In this case, we have created this functions.json file with three main functions: find information, find entities, and find news. As you can see, find information finds information on the web, given a query. This uses the Bing Search API, and the response includes relevant information from the web, etc., etc. Find entities finds entities on the web, given a query. This function uses the Bing Search API to find entities on the web, giving a query. And this should be used to find people, places, or things. Okay, so important to remember that. So now let's go and actually execute the researcher2.prompty file. Okay, and the instruction that we give it is, can you find the best educational material? So can you guess what function will it call? Here, we're just saying instructions. We're not telling the model which function to use. I'm going to use my Python 3.11. And in this case, it's using the find information function, as you can see. So the model is the one actually deciding what function to use. We can go here. Let me also, this is going to be better. And you can see here how the researcher2.prompty uses as parameters this file the functions.json file. Okay. So let's do a last try here, or let's use another one. So here we're going to ask, who is the person who invented the Python programming language? Hopefully we'll use the find entities, and it does. And again, we're just saying as inputs, it should use the instructions, which will use then the functions.json call. Okay. So the model already knows, based on natural language, which function it should use. And now let's try to use the find news by function here. So find the latest news about Microsoft. Do you see what went wrong here? So it didn't call the find news function. It's using the find information function. So why is that? Let's just go to the functions.json file. And it's as simple because here we have the find entities, find information, but we don't have the find news one. So it's already on the, you can find it directly here. Let me just show you. Well, it's already on the workshop. Let me just show you. So you can directly here copy and paste the function, find news. Okay, and let's just paste it here. Let me just be sure that I've copied correctly. Okay, and the find news function, it says find news on the web given a query. The response includes the most relevant news articles from the web and should be used if you're looking for news. Okay, now that we have the find news function, let's see. Let's just run the same cell as before. So you can see before it said find information. Let's see now what does the agent do. No surprise, it uses the find news function. So this already gives you a good idea of actually how prompty works and how the agents are able to define what action to take based on the inputs that we're passing it. Okay. Now let's connect everything. And we want the agent to generate these function calls, execute them, and then retrieve the results. It's important for you as well to understand all these functions are actually called in the researcher.py file, which is the one that puts everything together. You can see the Bing search endpoint, and you see the find information function, the find entities function, the find news function, and then the two most important ones are the execute researcher promptee that executes these agents to find information, and then the execute function calls, which basically decides what or provides the inputs to the agents to decide, or the LLM to decide which function to use based on this file, the functions.json file. Okay, so let's just run it here. We're going to actually now be running the entire researcher agent. Going to put everything together with this Python code, and I ask, can you find the best educational material for learning Python programming? So it uses the find information function. It decides to use that function, and then it gives us a bunch of articles and resources we can use. Let's just make this more real. Let's say I want to say JavaScript. And again, we're doing all this live. We're doing well on time. Let's see what do we get. And same, you can see also how the model behaves regardless of the question that we pass on. Okay. So in this case, the best educational material for learning JavaScript programming, and it gives us a bunch of resources. And also you can see how it took just 1.5 seconds to actually not only choose the function to use, but then get the LLM or the agents in this case to search for the information in the web and then actually outline it here. So congratulations, we've already built or finished the first step. Okay, and this is the foundation for creating more sophisticated agent solutions. Okay, you know at least how the different agents, or at least how an agent with different functions work, and you can again extend these to any other use cases or functionality. I would also encourage you to experiment with the prompts and configurations to explore further. Okay. Before we go to workshop 2, I'm not sure if Adi actually wants to, if there are any questions.
Actually, we have many questions, but Sarah and Kiko are doing an amazing job in answering them. And by the way, you probably are seeing in the published some questions. We gave some answers privately, and now we're gonna answer those on the published one. Feel free to continue and ask the questions. We are doing the best, and I think that because of time limitation, we can go ahead to the next lab, and then we will take some questions.
Okay, we're very close to actually put the model. To deploy the multi-agent application itself. Okay. But one thing that most people actually oversee or don't spend enough time with, which is debugging and investing time in observability. That's where most AI agent applications actually fail. As we know, again, as mentioned before, LLMs are non-deterministic, and that applies as well to agents. So things don't go normally as planned. And that's why it's important to have tools that allow us to really understand what's happening under the hood and then take action based on that. So we're going to explore today how to use promptee tracing, which is a powerful feature that helps us visualize prompt execution and identify issues in the workflow. So to make this practical, we're going to build and debug a custom social media agent. And imagine right now a marketing team that not only writes engaging blogs, but also promotes them on social media. And this is where a social media agent comes in. It's designed to generate Twitter threads to help amplify content and grow an audience. So the folder, let me actually close the researcher agent. Here we have the social media agent. And it actually is created by two main files. The Python script that handles the entire logic for sending prompts to the LLM. Okay, as you can see, it executes the social media writer. It gets the data from the social media writer, and then it runs the social media agent. Okay, and integrates the research functionality from the previous agent. And then the prompty file, let me again click here, YAML. I'm not sure why it's not recognizing here the file itself. But the prompty file contains the base prompt for generating a four tweet thread. So this is a social media agent that takes research from the researcher agent and generates social media content for Twitter. One thing I want to show you here, well, it uses GPT-4. And we say you're an expert copywriter who can take research from a web researcher to write an engaging Twitter thread. I'm not gonna read everything, but it says the thread should consist of 4 tweets. Use the following instruction as the basis, okay? And then we give the entire context. But we're talking about 4 tweets here. So let's go back to the workshop 2. Let me just pin it here. Okay, so let's just run the code for the social media agent. So you can see here, the instructions that we give to the agent. First of all, it actually calls the social media agent here. It asks to find information about AI agents and then writes. So in this case, this is calling the research agent, but then it's calling as well the social media one, saying write a fun and engaging Twitter thread about AI agents given the research. So let's run it and let's see what we get. Okay, so let's talk about AI agents, these digital wizards, so on and so forth. But there's something off here. We just see one tweet here, one AI agents or software programs decide, etc., etc. So this is not the expected output based on the behavior that we define on the prompty file. So let's pause for a moment and consider what went wrong. It could be a problem with the input instructions, the prompt, or something deeper. And this is where prompty tracing actually comes into play. It gives us this detailed view of what's happening at each step of the workflow, including the inputs sent to the LLM and the outputs generated. So let's look for the trace file generated by prompty. It's located in the .runs folder. And it's actually stored in this file, execute social media writer. It takes a couple seconds normally to open. But here we're going to see critical information from token usage to latency. Let's see, sometimes it takes, okay, here we go. So we can see here all the different steps taken, the different models that it's created and it's calling. We can see here the total time, the prompt tokens, and then completion tokens, 100 tokens. That doesn't sound right. Okay, so this might be likely the problem. These are very few tokens to generate a 4-tweet thread or 4-tweeter thread. So let's go to the social.prompty file. Okay, and again, let me just highlight it. So max tokens we have here 50. Again, most likely this is why the agent was not working as we expected. So let's just include it. Let's just increase the max tokens to 1500, just so we have enough. And now let's go back and run exactly the same Python cell. Okay, and there you go. Now we have not only the 4 tweets, but actually it just gives me like a nice closure to the entire text. So now you've seen how easy it is to actually find, or I mean, just to debug what has gone wrong with our agent systems and with LLMs, which is something very, very common. And just to actually make it again more real. So let's find information about AI agents. Let's find information about AI developers. It's just, again, I just want to make this totally real and random to an extent as well, and fun. So let's write a fun and engaging Twitter thread about AI developers. So I'm changing the behavior of 2 agents, and I've not tried this before. Let's see, it's taking a little bit longer. Okay, it works. So want to dive in the world of AI developers, and it just gives us a bunch of tweets which are talking about programming languages, projects on GitHub, and so on. And this really, again, demonstrates the power of tracing for debugging. So rather than just guessing where the problem might be, right? Again, we're already done the step 2. And yeah, as a bonus, I would say just have time to edit the social media agent prompt to generate content for another site in LinkedIn. For example, like LinkedIn, or you can use Reddit or anywhere else. Okay, and as you can see, the model should behave just as you actually prompt it or want it to behave. Good. Again, we still have around 15-20 more minutes max to run the 2 last workshops or 2 last files. And now is when everything gets together. Again, the most exciting part of the workshop. We're going to really finally build and run the Contoso Creative Writer. Okay. So in order to do that, there are going to be 3 key steps. We're going to build a fast API server to manage the backend, launching the web server to to power the front end, and then test the app to ensure it works as expected. So let's first, let me go to my terminal. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing here the notebook cells, but in any case, here I'm going to use the terminal. So you can just copy and paste, and I'm going to say fast API dev main.py. So this server is going to act as the backend for our, sorry, this server, not agent. This server is going to be the backend for the multi-agent application. So it's going to handle the requests and coordinate between the agents. One important thing to mention is that the fast API by default runs on port 8000. So, but we need to make this port public. Okay. So in order to do this, you need to go to ports here. And you have here port 8000. I'm going to go a bit slow here because I know this step is important, and if not, it won't work. And change port visibility from private to public. And the same with port 5173. Move it from private to private. And then on the terminal, I should say complete, application startup complete. Good. So we already have our backend working. Okay. Now let's start the web server, right? We need to bring this front end to life somehow. So let's open this new terminal, okay, on Bash, and navigate as well to the web folder. Before I did to the API folder, now I'm going to the web folder. And I'm going to do an npm install to get all the node packages that I need to run this application. Okay, it's actually pretty fast. And now I'm going to start the local development server using npm run dev. You can just see it here as well. Okay, so now it's working. Now this is working, and let me just go here and open it. GitHub will actually ask you if if this is a secure site and you want to give it access, just click on continue. And finally, we're here on the Contoso Creative Writer page. So we can put 3 different inputs. What kind of things should I find? What products should I look at? And what kind of writing should I do? I'm just going to post first the example inputs that we have here. So can you find the latest camping trends and what folks are doing in the winter? Can you use a selection of tents and sleeping bags as context? And then assignment, write a fun and engaging article that includes the research and product information. The article should be between 800 and 1,000 words. Cite the sources. As you mentioned them, not at the end. So I'm going to click Start Work. And here on this debugging file, I'm going to see how the different agents work. So first, the researcher agent just started. It's getting information from many different websites. As you can see here, CampSpot, Nothing, Nomads, MSN, Yahoo. Okay. Then the marketing task, actually, it's also producing the content itself, as you can see here. Then the writer tasks finishes, basically gets the inputs from the marketing one, and it's just finished. And then the editor task actually says, let's see. Okay, there's some feedback. The article is well written, but it could benefit from a more concise opening paragraph. Okay, fair. Let's see the article itself. So we see how we have actually created this article by taking many different steps, and it's been done in just seconds, less than 30 seconds or less than 1 minute for sure. And it's, again, it actually accomplishes everything that we intended from the beginning. It tells us the sources as we also requested. And again, talking as before about being bold, let's just, one thing that is the limitation of this workshop is that, of course, we have already uploaded specific product information to the vector database that we're using, in this case, AI search. So we cannot just search for any product, okay? So I'm going to keep this, but let's say, for example, can you find the latest, let's say, hiking trends and what folks are doing in summer? Let's see. And then let's gonna make this a little bit more fun. So write a fun and engaging article that includes the research and product information as written by Yoda. I'm sorry, I'm a big Star Wars fan. So let's see how the model behaves here. Okay, so the researcher task is working. Okay, no, it's this from the previous one. Okay, here's the second one. So as you can see, it actually talks about hiking. The sources are from hiking. Then the marketing tags, it also talks about outdoor living. And then editor feedback, your article has a unique style, but it could benefit from more clarity. Looks like that's a trend. Enlighten hiking, embrace the force of nature. When hike popular, indeed it has become. So at least it does a pretty good job, really following my instructions and doing that again in real time. I can just say as written by any other person, that could really change the behavior. Okay, but this already tells you how adaptable these applications can be. I can also say as written by Yoda in Spanish, for example, and this will be the last example I will use. But it really shows you again the flexibility and adaptability of these applications. Okay, I would say sorry for the non-Spanish speakers. The article, the title might not be that written by Yoda, but definitely the rest of the text is. So again, now you've seen again how to really build successfully the Contoso Creative Writer. Okay, so let's go now to the last step of the workshop. And congratulations, because you've already run the Contoso Creative Writer. And now we're going to
Jaime,
everything.
Before you
Yes.
move on, maybe just one comment, because
Sure.
I see a lot of questions on chat about the lab credentials. So what I would recommend for now for all of the attendees to focus on the flow and to see the example and learn from that. And we will follow up with you in the upcoming email to see how can we grant you the credentials for the lab. So if you did not succeed to log in, that's completely fine. Focus on the content itself. You will also get the recording. Let's go to the next part.
That was great, so I could drink some water. Okay, let's go then. Again, we just have 5-10 more minutes. It's going to take this last part of the workshop. But it's about really putting everything together and fully automating the deployment of deploying an agent application or an LLM-based application. So we're going to use GitHub Actions for this, and that's going to streamline not only the evaluations part, but also the deployment part. So the first task is actually to configure the Azure Developer CLI and GitHub Actions. Okay, so let's just first authenticate on GitHub. Okay, I need to select my own Python notebook. Let's ensure that we have the right permissions with the GitHub CLI. Okay, so in this case, I need to copy it. I need to go to a terminal here. Let me open a new terminal. So gh auth setup /git. Okay. And now I'm going to actually configure the entire CI/CD pipeline. I just want to say that this step is actually the most complex one, because this also commits all the changes I've done and automates already both the evaluation and deployment flows. In some cases, you might need to manually enable GitHub Actions if prompted. It might do it for me. Let's see. Everything's working well so far. And this is probably the step that takes more time. Okay, do I want to commit my pushes, my local changes to start the configure CI pipeline? Yes. And here, and also this is important because many people actually select the wrong answer. Just say, I have manually enabled GitHub Actions. Still, I believe it's going to ask me to. Okay, it works, but it might actually ask you for added permission. If it does, just click on the link and there will be a green button that you need to click just to enable GitHub Actions in your GitHub account. Okay, so now my pipeline status is here on this link. So let me just click on it. Okay, I understand my workflows. Go ahead and enable them. Okay, so actually, this is the screen I was talking about before. Now the workflows are running. So let's wait and let me just refresh. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Let me just open it here again. No, my bad. Now we need to actually run again the pipeline config command. And this will just take some seconds, but actually when the workflows have been deployed or activated, it will take, that's when it takes a couple minutes. Okay. Interesting. Let me maybe just wait. Okay, here you go. I was starting to get worried. So now I have, I might have been actually pushing this twice. It's better twice than not having this to show it to you. So I'm doing two things here. I'm actually fully automating the entire evaluation workflow, as I said, and I'm going to explain that now. And also, I'm deploying all the different resources that I need for the application itself, okay, to production. For the deployment itself, we have not had time to run the ACD app, okay, command, so probably it won't work. But what I want us to focus on is on the evaluations. Let's see. So this might take a couple minutes. Sorry, let's just look at the job itself. Okay. These are all the steps that we're fully automating through GitHub Actions. And maybe in the meantime, let me explain to you what we're going to be looking at. So eventually, let me just click here. Let's see if I can make this bigger for everyone. Okay. Okay, so there are 5 metrics that we're going to be scoring just to actually understand how the model is performing. Okay, and those are 4 main dimensions we're going to be measuring the model on. The first one is relevance. Does the content align with the instructions that we have given it to it? The second one is fluency, which basically means if the model or the language is natural and error-free, if it really feels human. Then the coherence, which means is the ideas are logically connected. And then the groundness is going to measure if the information is factual and backed by sources. So in a way, all these different evaluation metrics also tell us or could tell us which one of the agents are not performing accordingly. So for example, if the groundness score is low, it might indicate that we will need better prompts or better or stronger fact-checking mechanisms. But also a low fluency, for example, would suggest that the output length or token limits, as we saw before with the social media agent, will need to be adjusted. Let's see. Okay, right now, at least it's running the evaluation itself. Again, it takes some minutes. Now let's see how the other, in the meantime, okay, looks like it's almost done. Let's see all the workflows because the deployment one, okay, we see the evaluation one is finished. Good, right on time. So you can see, let me just, and actually it looks like the model, of course, we've worked at Microsoft in this application itself to ensure the highest performance. But we can see that also given the different evaluation questions that we've used, can you find the latest camping trends and what folks are doing in the winter? Can you find the latest trends in hiking shoes and find information about the best snow camping spots in the world? All of them are actually scoring 5 out of 5. Again, we've really spent time debugging and running a lot of evaluations with this application itself to ensure that it performs at the level that it should. You've seen that it works really well. But what I would encourage you again is just to also use GitHub Actions to better understand where do your agents fall short? What kind of behavior are they not performing at? And that's really going to help you out. I just have 1 more minute. So let me just go back to the workshop itself. And I just want to say congrats. Again, we've already finished the workshop. And just to recap, you've really learned how to understand agents and prompt engineering with Prompty, utilize Prompty tracing for debugging and observability, build and run the entire application, and then set up automated evaluations and deployment with GitHub Actions. So I really hope you enjoyed this hands-on journey. I know it's not been an easy workshop itself or session, but we're going to actually be providing you with a lot of resources that will enable you to extend the capabilities of this repo into any other agentic application. Of course, just last comment, if you found this workshop helpful, please don't forget to start the GitHub repository. That will really help the team. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for joining, and please reach out for any questions. Ari, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jaime. It was really interesting. I really like the example that you presented. And we actually have a lot of great questions in the Q&A chat. So you can take a look while we will present the contest right now. So thank you to everyone that were able to wait until this moment. I know it's been like a little bit tough without having the credential, and we'll follow up on that. But now let's see what you actually learned through this event. And the question that we have for this content is, what are the components in the agentic application control flow? Is it A, paper reader, quality checker, reference finder, and reference formatter? B, data collector, error logger, feedback generator, and report creator? Is it C, text analyzer, syntax checker, metadata viewer, and archive manager? Or is it D, code compiler, debugger, execution monitor, and API integrator? So we had a slide with that, and we touched those components in this workshop. I will give you a minute right now to answer. I see that you are starting to answer that. And what will happen now is that Laura from our team will reach out to you in a private message. So please respond to, and amazing, we have a winner. So we have Ali, let's see. So amazing. We have Ali, which is the winner. Congratulations, Ali. Enjoyed the swag. And what we're going to do right now, we will continue because we have some great questions. But before we do that, so just for you to know that we already published the upcoming event. We have some cool sessions in this series, like leveraging how to create infra for AI application and how to do FinOps. And then we have a session about platform engineering with GitHub and how to create your organization workloads with AI. So a lot of great content, but what I want to dedicate the last less than 10 minutes that we have is for Q&A, and we can pop some of the questions for you, Jaime. Let's see.
Sure.
Okay. There are several questions about the differences between AutoGen and Prompty, and AutoGen, and do we have a graphic UI GUI to building an agent application?
So we don't have UI itself. I mean, Prompty doesn't provide a UI. It does already on Visual Studio Code already. The library allows you to actually visualize the performance of the models themselves. If you want a UI per se, I would suggest PromptFlow. That it has different diagrams that really allow you to really see how the flow of the different steps within an LLM-based application. And also you can define different variants in order to track the performance or measure the performance on many of them. So let's say you use different models with the same prompts and you want to see how they perform. You might just want to set an evaluation flow with 5 different models, and PromptFlow is very useful for that.
Dan is asking, how does it work when it comes to using your own company data stored in private Azure databases?
Can you repeat the second part of the question, please?
Yes, how does it work when it comes to using your own company data stored in private Azure databases?
So your data is totally secure. Microsoft never has access to your data, neither does have OpenAI. Okay, everything's fully encrypted both in rest and in transit. And in this case, what we store in the vector database would be the embeddings. Okay, so there's no, from a security standpoint, there's no risk or no exposure of your private company data. And that's, I mean, you can think about, I think, the other day we published that around 50% of the Fortune 500 companies are using AI search as a vector database, and they're uploading there all their company data, from employee data to internal knowledge bases, financial reports, everything. So there shouldn't be any limitations from a security standpoint.
And this is maybe related to Ali's question, is asking how can we create an agent that will search through a specific web page, like my company page, instead of the whole web? So actually, this kind of workshop, this is what we try to present, how you can look into data and create for your accounts, for your data, for your application, kind of a co-pilot and agent. So I would, and there is a question if there is additional recording and upcoming event. So we post on the chat already another Learn Credential, a workshop that you can actually try it out. And there are a lot of sessions on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube page that exactly showing there how to create additional example of creating Copilot. So I would recommend you to take a look at that. Okay. Let's look for the additional question. Can we embed a content safety in the prompts or use the Azure Content Safety Service? Which option is the most cost effective? Because if we use more explicit prompt, the number of tokens increases, so cost increase. On the other hand, if using content safety, we pay for additional service.
Really depends as well on the nature of the content of the prompts themselves and what type of content safety you're trying or feature you're trying to maximize for, whether it's sexual content, violent content, self-harm. Normally what we suggest is to use safety at multiple layers. So one would be at the meta prompting layer to ensure that the model doesn't really, the model by themselves, the models, or at least OpenAI models and many other open source models, they already have some guardrails that prevent the user from making any non-intended use of the model. That's one. Then at the application level, you can also define different logic. Then you can also do it with meta prompting. And then the fourth layer would be, again, the content safety. So we would really need to better understand the application itself and see where it makes more sense. From a cost perspective, it's true that content safety, it also depends on the volume of tokens and depends on the volume of calls you're going to have to the model, but it doesn't need to be necessarily more expensive.
Thank you. And there is a question by Phil about Copilot Studio. He's saying that evaluation flow looks interesting, grounding score, etc. Is there an equivalent in Copilot Studio, please?
Sorry, I missed that. Can you repeat?
The evaluation flow that we've seen in the workshop, it looks, it was good process. And the question is, does the Copilot Studio have the same process of evaluation?
It does. It does have a very similar one. It uses the same evaluation metrics. I personally not used it because the Copilot Studio is actually brand new. But as far as I know, it does have the same functionality. It's more, I would say, more user-friendly. Again, it's more UI based than the one in Prompty or the one that you can use with GitHub Actions. So yes, in short, it does. I have not used it, but I've seen it.
There is another question by Leighton that is asking, is it multi-model?
Absolutely. I mean, the model that we've used, no, but I've seen other customer applications that use different agents. One, for example, just extracting information from images or even, let's say, receipts, or we could actually just, for example, make the research agent just go through different images as an example, or different, for example, different voice notes or even podcasts. We have some customers that are actually translating or transcribing all their podcasts and have an agentic application on top that performs different steps. The first one would be, again, just use a speech to text model, then use another LLM to actually translate the model, another one to actually, or the information, another one to summarize it. So yes, I mean, these models, a good thing is that they're the agents are model agnostic.
And also, 2 weeks ago, we had Microsoft Ignite, and we had a lot of great sessions and demos and a walkthrough on how to build a multimodality agent and application. So I would also recommend you to log into the Ignite website and look into the recording. I think last one more question from Ranga is saying that we had a great session. He's thanking Jaime, to you and the team, and he's asking what is the best approach to add authentication with a fast API with Azure AD SSO?
I would say you can either use Entra or you could either use, I would say just using Entra for authentication. I mean, you can also create a service principal at the application level, but I would just use Entra for that.
And we do have more additional technical questions. My recommendation for you, because we will not be able to address them, is to log in into the Discord AI. We have a lot of advocacy worldwide that is supporting and here for you to address your technical question. So I would recommend to log in into the Azure Discord AI to answer, to get more responses to your great technical questions. And with that, because we are over time, I want to deeply thank you, Jaime, for an amazing session, and for all of you attendees that joined today and learned about how to build a multi-agent, multitasking agent applications. And we have many more sessions to go, so we will happy to have you with us in the next one. And also thank you to our experts, Sarah Lamini and Kiko the Angel that joined us today and answered a lot of questions. And we hope you learned and we gave you some value. And we hope to see you again. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure.